Hello and welcome to Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora. I am a galactic walk-in. I came into this body, oh my goodness, about 16 years ago, after the original occupant had been murdered. And there was tons of neurological damage in this brain. And what I did was oscillate the genetic material, the little genes, little vibrating DNA strings of this body, making it possible for me as a portion of stellar consciousness that is associated with the pure light of awareness or photons that come from stars, in order to come down into this physical body or to be invested into this physical cellular structure and speak through the flapping of these moving mouth parts. Brief pause. So I like to say I wouldn't even bring up my own personal journey of, what happened in order to make me be a walk-in, except that it is highly relevant to the backstory of the flying rainbow lasagna shape. And the flying rainbow lasagna is like a higher dimensional torus, or like a type of hyper torus, that is the next highest dimensional shape that you can make with not only your energy field that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical body, but also with your actual genetic material. When we speak about supercoiling, so supercoiling means on one of the stages of being knitted together into a chromosome. So ordinarily, your DNA is unfurled like a sweater. If we took a crocheted or knitted sweater and we took one thread and we pulled the whole thing so that all of the little loops became unfurled, that would be what your DNA is like at the center of your nucleus, in the nuclei of all of your cells. Most of the time, your DNA is like that sweater that is not knitted together, and it is constantly vibrating and dancing and tying itself in knots and doing loop-de-loops and twisting and morphing and leaping and being spliced and unspliced and doing all sorts of movements. So I bring this up because in science and in most of the simplistic presentations of what DNA is, it's represented as a static X-shaped chromosome, or a ladder-shaped two like linear pieces of information twined together in a ladder shape. And that's not accurate, because that's not what your genes are actually doing. They're always twisting and dancing, and if they're like a zipper, a lot of the time they are unzipped in order to do these various dances. So all of that is important information so that you can understand the flying rainbow lasagna. If you look at a picture of it, you can look at a picture of it by going to my website, which is flyingrainbowlasagna.com. It's lasagna with E on the end. Or you can also check out on YouTube. I have extensive videos, including one that's called The Conception of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And it really gives a good example of how the shape is the end result of a movement or an oscillation. Just like if you take a long exposure picture of a person throwing a baseball and it looks like they have a million arms, but they don't have a million arms, they have one arm that is being photographed a million times. When you look at the flying rainbow lasagna shape, you will see that there are 8 lobes or like flanges or petal shapes to it, and that's actually the composite image of that middle violet portion oscillating back and forth and making these 8 kind of half vortexes. A lot of words, right, to describe something that you could look at and perceive as a totality very easily. Language is a hack. Language is not the original way that we were created in order to share our sophisticated inner realities with one another. So it's very hard to use the flapping of the moving mouth parts in order to do this, but we are doing it. And the reason why we use the moving mouth parts and verbalization is because we have lost our higher faculties, and that happened about 10 or 20,000 years ago when this planet was invaded. So I usually, in my online class, get up to lesson 18 of a 20-lesson class before I speak about this information. And I started doing that class in about 2013. So this is already like 4 years ago that we're working with. The human levels of development have increased, very thankfully, very good. This is very good news. Everyone's become a lot more sophisticated. So now it is possible for me to not have to do all of this backstory. And that's what I used to do, is lead the entire class on like a 4-month-long journey of raising the unconditional love and gathering the inner momentum and emotional fortitude to face the truth of these revelations or of this information. And now at this point, humanity is ready for this information. We don't have to sugarcoat it. We don't have to pull any punches. I used to be very like super responsible, because you don't want to, just rearranging my chair here, you don't want to give people information irresponsibly, which means partial information or information out of order that can make people fly off the handle. So it would be like if I were, giving you some kind of a psychic reading. I don't actually do psychic readings. I'll save you money. If you want to know who you were in a past life, you all were everyone. But if I were to give a psychic reading, and if I said to you something like, in your past life, you were Hitler, or, some horrible ex-murderer, that would be irresponsible, because it's true, you were, but you also were the best saint, the best healer, all of these wonderful people too. You've been everyone. So I'm trying to say you can tell a lie by selectively giving facts, and that would not be responsible for me as a teacher. I'm sharing with you now that concept of interdimensional ethics. When you begin to have an impact on other people's minds, you should have an ethical impact. So that means, like, if you were a non-physical being and you had the choice, I could either reveal myself to physical beings and have an impact on their mind, or not. I could just remain, obscured and not have an impact on them. Or if you could say, I'm going to say these words or not say these words, and I'm going to recognize that either acting or not acting is going to have an impact. Now we get to the realm of interdimensional ethics. Is it ethical to have an impact on other beings? And the answer is, all of this is about unconditional love and freedom, and whether you impose your will upon others. So if I were in abstraction in another realm and I didn't have a vested interest, then it would be considered rather untoward or a bit inappropriate for me to, stick my big fat nose into other people's business. But if I am affected by what is going on, it's totally appropriate for me to have an impact. However, you have to get into, are you having a positive or benevolent impact, or what level of impact are you having? So like if we use, a non-terrestrial being as an example, if they are obscured and you do not see them, they're not having an impact on your life or on your trajectory through time. This is what this is all about. You're like a baseball that's flying through time. Like you're like a particle that has a direction and a rate, an amount of force that you are exhibiting. And anytime someone speaks to you or has an impact on your life in some way, they're changing your trajectory through time. They are making you think in a slightly different way, which puts you in a slightly different vector, which means you will have slightly different life experiences than if they didn't interact. So I take full ethical responsibility. I take radical self-responsibility in sending out this broadcast on this radio station. I understand that I am having an impact on other people's life trajectories, and I take responsibility for what I say. So I hope that those of you who are long-term listeners and those of you who are new for the first time just tuning in, welcome. I hope you really understand how much I specifically choose my words, like very carefully, and say what I'm going to say with the understanding that I'm having an impact on other people, and I also invite people to listen and to have that level of participation so that it is consensual. It's not like I'm blaring this out of my car window or on, speakers on the street that you cannot avoid it, or I'm shouting it into your ear at night while you're trying to sleep peacefully. No, no, no. You are tuning in willfully to these broadcasts, and I even say jokingly in some of my descriptions, don't tune in if you don't want to get lasagnified. Like, only tune into these radio stations if you want to transform the shape of your DNA into flying rainbow lasagna patterns, because that is what is happening. I'm not at my piano right now, but if I were at my piano, I'd play a little ditty and I'd say, that's my music. That's my melody. My melody is the flying rainbow lasagna. I wrote a new melody that I could play with the DNA of this body. And what happened was the body didn't die. The previous occupant would have died if I did not come into it and play this little melody called the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And what happened was I did something that would be considered very unlikely. Like when your brain gets harmed and, you're having an anoxic brain injury and your heart stops and you don't breathe anymore, that is considered the greatest likelihood is death. you're going to hit the flowing membrane of death. And that means your sweater is going to be unfurled. You're going to go back to the beginning and have to try a new variation of thoughts and feelings and experiences in order to try to exit the wormhole. But that is not what happened in this body. What happened was I, as an abstraction that is not usually in the form of a human body with a face and 2 arms and 2 legs, I caused this body and the genes to vibrate in a higher dimension. And that's the simple answer when people ask me, Aurora, how do I create a flying rainbow lasagna? The simple answer is you take a torus or a double torus or a donut-shaped object or energy center, and you vibrate it in the next highest dimension. So it's a similar procedure to if we took a flat piece of paper that is 2-dimensional and we vibrated it into the next highest dimension, which is the 3rd dimension, and we do that by folding it. So we magically take something that is flat and 2-dimensional and does not have depth, and as soon as we fold it, we give it another dimension. So this is what we are doing when we vibrate the torus, or the donut shape of your non-physical energy presence in a higher dimension. It's like folding it, except it's not, a literal analogy. But that is very similar to what we're doing. And this donut of your body is made out of time. It's the time field. We're not allowed to cut the time field. That's what the evil or dark magicians have been doing. They've been harming the time field. So the time field is a living 3-dimensional embroidery. It's like, instead of a map, we are familiar with a map being like a 2-dimensional representation of a 3-dimensional landscape. The time field is a 3-dimensional representation of a multidimensional timescape. And we are navigating the time field right now, like through our lives. It's 12:01, it's 12:02, it's 2:24. We've navigated the time field. And you're not in the same body that you were 1 moment ago. You keep hopping from body to body as you navigate the time field. Another way of thinking about it is like playing a record, an old-fashioned analog record that you put on a record player and you play it with a needle, like from a previous century. That the song of your life is like this one long groove of this record of time. And it's kind of like, it's shaped like a vortex, but if we look down on it from the top, it looks like a bullseye. And you are spiraling inward towards that center spindle, just like on a regular record, playing the song of your life. And every time you hit the membrane of death and you circulate back to the beginning, you reknit the sweater of your genes into a new format. And those genes express not only the physical format or shape or size of your body, they also express your trajectory through time. Genes are the critical integument that tie your consciousness from moment to moment, that make you transfer your consciousness from the body of 12:01 to the body of 12:02 to the body of 12:03. So that's your genes. So now we do the logic. If A is to B and B is to C, then A is to C. Genes affect your trajectory through time, and the sound of my voice giving you new ideas and software programs for your mind is also affecting your trajectory through time. I'm like touching the baseball of you as you fly through the air, making you go either left or right or up or down with the ideas that I'm giving you. Therefore, the ideas that I'm giving you are affecting your genetic expression, which is affecting your trajectory through time. So this is all about ethics. I am literally affecting your genes and your DNA. And guess what? You are literally affecting the genes and the DNA of everyone else that is here, of me. It's reflecting back. We're in a giant symphony and we're submerged. I'm looking out my window because it's a beautiful rainy day. I'm not in my garden right now, but I'm looking at all these beautiful living plants, lots of grasses and natural, herbs and things like that. And beautiful redwood trees. I don't really have anything planted yet for the season. But the whole point is these are all alive beings. And they're alive on the macroscopic level. If I got my microscope out, I would see how every surface is teeming with life on the microscopic level. And these are all fellow musicians in the symphony. And just because it's a little tiny yeast or fungus or microbe that's on the surface of a leaf does not make it any less valid or important of a player in the symphony. Like we need the deep kettle drums, the deep notes, and we need the high piccolos. We need everybody singing and playing in this beautiful genetic symphony. So the whole idea is that only humanity has been domesticated. or diverted and distorted from its original intended musical score that we were created by the great composer. And the great composer is a musician that is even more sophisticated and fantastic than, Mozart or Beethoven or Bach, like, the great composers that we really think of as real geniuses. It's a composer that's so sophisticated that they write the notes for every little tiny microbe to play, including that you have 3 trillion microbes that live just in the intestines of your body that help you to digest your food. They're all playing their own individual songs, and it's all part of the symphony called life, okay? So, brief pause while I save my word. The bad news that I usually wait until lesson 18 to, disclose to everyone is that humans have been genetically distorted and degraded, and you are domesticated, and you're not in your present format the way that you were intended to be. So in the same way that humans have domesticated dogs, and the non-domesticated format of a dog is a wolf. And domesticated dogs, they require human intervention and care. They cannot live happily without humans. This is because their genes have been changed. So it's not just some psychological type of neediness, even though that psychology plays into it. Dogs understand on a profound level they can't make it on their own. They actually need a human, what we would call a master, to brush them and comb them and keep them free of fleas and give them food and help them, not to be harmed in the world. And this is the ancient pact between humans and domesticated dogs. It's why we did this, because a long, long time ago, humans were very vulnerable, and they're like, hey, come sleep in my cave with me. I've got a fire. We can stay warm. I'll pick off your fleas, and you can help protect me from the other animals out there. And it's like, okay, that sounds cool. Let's do this. But however, that represented a degradation in the basic consciousness and approach to life and resources that a wolf has. A wolf does not need a human to keep its fleas away. A wolf can hunt for food perfectly well. A wolf can give birth without any human intervention, like a wolf does not need a partnership with humans. And so I'm now going to say, you are a human, you have been domesticated, you are like a dog. And that's not a favorable comparison, even though we love our animal companions very much. You are diminished, and you don't have access to all of the natural faculties that you would use if you had not been diminished on a genetic level. So, hey, why don't wolves get full of fleas and mange? Because they have a natural deterrent that prevents that from happening. But dogs have had that bred out of them. They don't have that natural deterrent, all right? So now we're going to say humans have created deities or consciousness entities that are like structures that are masters for them. A domesticated dog is happy when it's on a leash and the master tells it what to do. Like, they look up at their masters adoringly. Thank you so much, human, for feeding me and brushing me and taking care of me and walking me on a leash so that I don't get hit by a car or hit by a truck or eaten by another dog. Like, this is what domesticated dogs think and feel. I'm paraphrasing, of course. I mean, they think and feel a lot more than that, but that's the basic synopsis of where they're coming from. And this is how humans view their overlords and masters in terms of religious control systems, social control systems like government, and personal individual control systems. That everybody is taught that it's this big old scary world, and you're going to need an external authority figure to tell you what to do and where to go at all times. So early in your life, it's mommy or daddy. Eventually it becomes teacher, and eventually it becomes boss. And boss is an outgrowth or an extension of government. And now I'm telling you that government is an artificial overlay that has been imposed upon our Earth by these invaders of consciousness. So the bad news is your planet was invaded about 10 or 20,000 years ago. Your genes were artificially damaged and squashed and diminished in their ability to dance. You are no longer wolves. Wolves would be like, screw you, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to go where I want to go and do what I want to do. You're not wolves. You are domesticated humans, and you say, I need to have food to eat. Please give me a job so that I can have some food. And this goes back thousands of years. This is the story of human history and civilization, basically about 6,000 years of what humans can remember about themselves. And this, goes back to roughly ancient Sumeria, ancient Babylon, when humans went from being subsistence farmers, beings who only tried to hunt, gather, or procure enough food for themselves to eat, to when it is called civilization. Civilization means domestication. It is when humans went from being able to take care of themselves very well by utilizing the resources that are available naturally in the world to relying upon artifice and technology to take care of them. Artifice and technology are your masters. Just like dogs have humans as their masters that keep them from having fleas and being harmed by other dogs. That humans use technology in order to prevent them from starving, being cold, being attacked by and harmed by other animals. But that's not the way you were intended to live. Brief pause. Humans were intended to live as divine conduits. Like you are connected to the source that emanated you, the source of consciousness, that great composer that's even more fantastic than Mozart, created you, created your consciousness, created energy, created electrons, created atoms, created the phenomenon of light, created everything, and created you also, and told you when to be emanated into the physical world. That's like the composer, like, tap, 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 it's almost time to play your instrument, now begin to play. And that's called being born. And then what we were supposed to do was maintain that connection to the great composer and to the great conductor throughout our existence in the physical realm. We are living right now in a very unnatural state wherein we are cut off from, or most people are mostly cut off from. There's like a tiny little, percentage of the composer that comes through, and usually comes through in dire circumstances. Like if your car's about to hit a brick wall, if you're really, really sick with, 104-degree fever, those are the times when people tend to be able to transcend their genetic limitations and reach out for, or reach within for their divine connection. And that's when, quote unquote, miracles happen. Miracle healing. Like a person, I've heard beautiful stories from people that they've shared with me where they have a turnaround. One particular person in the hospital having cancer treatments, and she said she literally felt her life, like her essence, dripping away from her until she realized she hadn't completed a dream that she really wanted to do, to study at this particular music school. And in that moment, she made a change in her belief system and in her willpower, and all of a sudden her levels changed and her monitors changed, and her oxygen levels came back up, and she switched timelines. Like this is what I'm talking about, that we are all supposed to be connected to that source of healing and guidance and unconditional love all the time. It's not just supposed to be for those crucial, dire moments when you're lying in a hospital bed, with your lifeblood dripping away. That level of connection is supposed to be all the time. It's kind of like, it's like saying if you had a phone, but you could only use that phone, at the moment of death when you were and that's when you finally got to call home and talk to your family members. Like, that's wonderful that you get to call home when you're about to die. But really, we're supposed to be able to call home all the time and have casual conversations and say, how's your day? The sun is shining here. This is what's going on. So the intention for us was to be these experiencers, like feelers, like I have, my hands and my tendrils that feel, that I can send out to the world, and they can tell the rest of me what's going on in the world. We are supposed to be divine feelers. Like we come here into this physical world and have this physical expression. We are supposed to be like these sensory input devices for a much larger entity. We're not supposed to come out here and be cut off from that much larger entity and bounce around blindly, hitting the membrane of death over and over and over until finally, after we've gone through every single possible combination of events and thoughts and ideas and feelings, we finally come to the right one, which is the ascension pathway. And ascension is not to be confused with the biblical, literal Christian rapture. Ascension is a transformation of your physical structure until it is more like what it was before humanity was genetically degraded. That we were meant to be beings of pure light. And so science describes light as a phenomenon, and it is kind of matter, but it's not really matter. That is exactly what we are. And matter, our physical body, is light that has the privilege of being slowed down and smushed together until it is more dense than it would have been otherwise. We are like concentrated light, but that doesn't change or redefine what we are on a basic level. So like I'm telling you, all of these words and the flapping of my moving mouth parts and the energy they contain, this is changing you on a genetic level. You're dancing in a different pattern than you would have been if you hadn't listened to these ideas. And the idea is that all of us as a collective, as individual humans and as a collective human society and as a planet right now, we can all transcend the programmed limitations that are actually untruthful. They are not truthful limitations. They are an artifact of our domestication. So domestication of humans means that you have lost your higher faculties. You've been cut off from the source, which is like the big cell phone broadcaster. You know, it's the sun, it's the stellar network. You can't really hear, and you kind of forgot who you are, and you kind of don't know what to do. The higher faculties are those aspects of self or perception, perceivers or sensory perceivers of reality that allow you to perceive time. So I described that donut-shaped or toroidal energy field that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical body as being made of time. We are submerged within time. We're flowing through it all the time, but most people cannot effectively perceive time. And I'm not blowing my own horn here. I had to understand that other people weren't seeing the same information that I was seeing. And when I was drawing all of these drawings and making all of these paintings after I came into this body, I thought that what I was doing was very just implicit, that everyone would just understand. I had to get it, that not everybody is seeing time like I'm seeing time. So that became part of my mission, and part of my my challenge is how to use the flapping of my moving mouth parts to describe what I am seeing with my inner vision. I paint it and I draw it and I make it as sculptures and animations, and I understand that it needs more explanation than just the sculptural forms for people to understand what it is. So the time vortex, or these four vortex chakra shapes, chakra just means spinning wheel of energy. These are the basic shapes of time as it flows from the source and back to the source. So we are emanated from the source, which is the zeroth dimension, or the overlapping of all energy and all possibility and all consciousness. It's where everything comes from. And we are emanated from the source, and we come here into the physical dimension through various layers in exactly the same way that electricity is stepped down. It comes from the power station, at 1,000,000 volts. I'm just joking. I don't know how many volts it comes from, but it comes at a very high rate from the power station, and then it goes through various transformers in the neighborhood until it finally gets to your own home and your own electrical outlet, where it is running at the appropriate rate so that it does not blow out your toaster and your home computer. That is how we receive information and intelligence from the source. Divinity, the zeroth dimension. And it's zero not because it is less valuable than other dimensions, but because it requires zero amount of description to say where it is located. It's at infinity. It's at the zeroth dimension. It doesn't need an address. Everything is there. So the source is emanating all of these ideas to those of us that are here in the physical realm, and we're supposed to be connected to that source of ideas, have them flow through us, just the same way like air from oxygen from the atmosphere flows through your lungs, flows through your body, and then is exhaled and goes back into the atmosphere. We're supposed to have energy and information and intelligence come from the source and flow through us as individuated members of a larger network, and then return to the source. You're supposed to be feelers or sensory apparatuses, I know that's not right, apparati, whatever, of a much larger entity. So when the human domestication process happened 10 or 20,000 years ago, it didn't just harm humanity. God also lost out. God got like a blind spot, or like a skip in the record. Like I'm supposed to be getting some sound or some feedback, but for about the past 10 or 20,000 years, I'm not getting anything from Earth. I don't know what the heck is going on down there. And that's not natural. Like if you're supposed to be, it's like the kids are too quiet in that room. Something's going on over there. So believe me, we have not been abandoned by divinity. Divinity is, oh my goodness, this is profound. God cares about us, or divinity cares about us so much. It cares about every single electron in your body. It cares about the possibilities that you contain. So not just who and what you are now, but what you could become. Because this living three-dimensional time embroidery is interdependent. The energy that I require tomorrow comes from you, or, comes from that guy over there. Like, I need you. I need that guy over there because I'm like a baseball flying through space, and I'm going to need food and oxygen and energy and social interaction when I hit this place over here tomorrow, and I need for you to be there. Like, this is the whole idea. We are all divinity. We are all aspects of the divine, and we are all out here playing our roles in the cosmic symphony, where it's like, it's supposed to be a perfectly timed, like, trapeze artists. Like, I flip on this trapeze over to this direction, and this person is there at just the right moment to catch me. And then I flip to the next person, the next person, the next person. This is how we're supposed to move through time. So when we're really in our groove, we experience this as synchronicities. So I use little examples of it. Like, you might be thinking or saying something at the exact same time, or just a few seconds off, when the announcer says those same words on the TV or on the radio. And that's just a little synchronicity. Or, you think the exact words of a song, and then turn on the radio 2 seconds later, and those words are playing on the radio. These are like rare gems that happen in our present existence, or like winks or nods or thumbs up from the cosmos. This is what our totality of existence is supposed to be like all the time. We are supposed to be such good musicians embedded within this living time embroidery that we are always playing the right notes and always matching our music to the music of our environment, or to the music of the symphony that's going on around us. So it's not unfathomable that you would match your thoughts and feelings and expressions and actions to the plants and the animals and the microbes and everything else that's around you. Doing it to something technological like the television is, let's say, like, we're on the journey towards getting there, but we're not all the way there yet, because this is really about fully removing technology and artifice so that humanity can return to our fully non-domesticated state. Lesson 18 in all of my lessons is all about why humanity needs to use technology, because we lost our higher faculties. Your higher faculties, this is like your unconditional love, and your throat chakra, which is the ability to communicate, and your brow chakra, which is the capacity to use insight or perceive time directly, and your crown chakra, which is your connection to the giant power plant known as God, or the zeroth dimension. All of those higher faculties, when they're functional and operational, they allow you to not have to eat other people to stay alive. Like, you don't have to eat other living plants or animals to stay alive. Your higher faculties allow you to perceive time and to ingest intelligence directly from the stellar network. So you would not have to use plants or chloroplasts as an intermediary that catches photons, photons is information or intelligence, and transforms it into a starch that you can then eat. All of that is the degradation of human domestication. So if a dog were a wolf, it would run around, catch an animal, and eat it up raw and put it in its belly and eat it. And that's what it would do. We have domesticated dogs, and we feed them canned dog food or kibbles. Like, that's not natural. They don't run around catching a can of dog food. We have created this diet for them so that they can eat it. And, some dogs have been so changed in their domestication process that they need to have a special diet. Or some dogs have been so changed in their domestication process they cannot give birth naturally. Like bulldogs, it all has to be by cesarean section. They have to be surgically removed from their mother. That means there has to be human intervention. Those dogs could never exist without human intervention. So humans, in your present state, you can only exist due to the intervention of technology using space races. And these are not benevolent beings. These are malevolent beings. They changed you from being a wolf to being a dog for their own benefit. And it did not benefit you at all, and it did not benefit God, the original creator. This is why I call this present system, what we're experiencing, is like hack. Hackers didn't invent a computer system. They didn't invent the language. They just invented a way of taking what is presently in existence and changing it and distorting it and using it to their own particular advantage so they can exploit it. The technology using space races are not sophisticated. Even though they might have technology that you, as an unsophisticated dweller of the backwoods earth, would think, oh, gee whiz, look at that. They've got some newfangled fancy hardware, don't they? That is not really very sophisticated. all the technology that they have, they inherited. They didn't actually develop it on their own. They inherited it. They don't control it properly. It controls them. They're not that good at what they do. So I'm trying to tell you, please don't be unduly impressed by the overlords of humanity that have oppressed and harmed and invaded you and mind raped you for tens of thousands of years. Because that's also part of what's been programmed in the same way that humans have domesticated dogs and they took the friendliest puppies. They did not work with and continue to breed the puppies that bit their own masters. Humans even have a phrase, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Like that is considered to be the ultimate in being ingrateful. Humans continue the lineage of the dogs that are good and well behaved. And human overlords continue the lineage of those beings that worship them as divinity and as gods and that adore them. They're not gods. They're technology using extraterrestrials, but they have implanted within your genetic code the tendency to adore them. Like you're a dog on a leash and you look up at your master and you say, "Thank you so much, master, for keeping me safe in the chaos of this world. I don't understand very much. I'm just a simple lowly dog, but you keep me safe and give me a pile of kibble at the end of my day. So thank you for giving me what you give to me." And this is how most people approach divinity and how most people are controlled through earth religion. Earth religion, in my estimation, is a control system, all of it. And it is not made in order to bring you closer to divinity. It is meant to keep you on a leash like a dog listening to your master. And it's not a positive thing because we were meant to be free. We were meant to be in charge of ourselves in the same way that a wolf is in charge of itself. Like a wolf, it lives and dies by its own wits and by its own teeth. If it chooses to go down a particular, path in the woods where it falls off a cliff, it did so through its own choices. However, once you become domesticated, then you're a dog taking your orders from someone else. And if you take your orders from your master or your boss or your God that tells you go down there, walk down that path, and you fall off a cliff, it's because they told you to do it. It's because you listened, you acquiesced to your own inner authority to an external authority figure, and it brought you in that direction. This is the whole cautionary tale of what humanity is facing right now. Your overlords that domesticated you, or whom have domesticated you, are trying to send you over a cliff. And the cliff is a religious cliff. I call most earth religions death cults because they are all about how wonderful it's going to be when you die. How wonderful you're going to be released from all of the difficulties of having to eat food and metabolize and, make choices and be alive. And you'll finally be at peace and you'll finally be free. I'm telling you, as a person who has experienced death, and I have, this is why I tell you about being a walk-in and where the flying rainbow lasagna comes from. I have the perspective to tell you that no, death is not per force or by definition a release. Death does not necessarily bring you to freedom. That death, it's like in Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray. You just keep hitting the membrane of death and circulating back to the beginning and rewinding and trying again. So, and also, when people die, when people kill themselves, when people die and they go into the world between worlds. So I call this the interstices, or you could call it the membrane. There's a membrane between worlds, but it's supposed to be a place that you pass through, not a place that you occupy. But there are beings that have been living there for about the past 10 or 20,000 years. They've set up whole civilizations there that are more ancient and sophisticated and more well established than your present civilization. So it's like saying, this is the hallway down our home. We're supposed to be able to walk down the hallway to get to the living room, but we can't because there's squatters that set up a whole tent city here, and this is where people live here now. But you could call it the astral realm, or it could be called the fourth dimension. But let's just go through this very briefly. People are very not impeccable right now with their use of the word fourth dimension or fifth dimension. So I'm going to go through it real fast. The 0th dimension is like a dot. The first dimension is like a line. The second dimension is like a flat plane or many lines lined up next to one another. The third dimension is a cube or like many planes stacked up on top of one another. And the fourth dimension is a timeline. It is many cubes in a line that are connected together through time. So you begin to have the cube of 1201, the cube of 1202, the cube of 1203, and consciousness bounces from cube to cube to cube. Think of it like a person going from a train car to the next train car to the next train car to the next train car. So that's what the fourth dimension is. And then if you line up many train cars at the train station, you get a time plane. That's the fifth dimension. But don't be too literal, because the fifth dimension is really a world of uncollapsed waveforms. Don't think of it as a specific, like a station, like a physical place where you can go to. It is not a physical place where you can go to. This is why I'm very troubled when I hear people say fifth dimensional beings that are shaped like giant blue birds. They're not shaped like anything. They are a bunch of uncollapsed waveforms. So this is how we are understanding. It's very difficult to have a conversation with beings that are coming from a very different direction and moving at a very different rate. But it's all you. But be impeccable with your language. Higher dimensional. So when you go to sleep at night and you dream, you are beginning to step your toe into this astral realm. The astral realm is the realm of projected imagination. This is why they say to you, your imagination isn't real. Your imagination is very, very real and very, very powerful. It's not the same as physical matter, but it is a very real place, and it's the place that is occupied by these dark magicians that use the energy of that realm. The dark magicians occupy that area between realms. They're like the squatters that are building the tent city in the hallway. And they've learned how to distort and hijack the flow of energy that is coming through that realm. This is called dark magic, and it is a distortion of the time field. And the time field is a living three-dimensional embroidery. I described before how it's like a trapeze. One person is flipping, and the next person is catching, and the next person is flipping, and the next person is catching. It's a living embroidery. And if you begin to cut the threads, then you are on your trapeze, swinging in your trajectory, and you're looking for the next place to go to, and the arms that are going to catch you, and they're not there. And this is a very big problem, the degradation of the time field. So we can also understand this as intention and ethics. You're supposed to have reflected back to you exactly what you send out. Brief pause. I do these brief pauses to save my work so it doesn't evaporate. You are supposed to get back exactly what you send out, and you're supposed to get it instantaneously. These are some of the basic tenets of magic. So if an evil magician wanted to send an evil spell or a curse at you, you could simply hold up this basic truth of the cosmos, which is like a mirror that reflects it back. What you send out comes back to you instantaneously. And this is the truth of the cosmos. However, in the past 10 or 20,000 years, we have been living within an artificial time field where there's a delay. Like if I sent out energy and it was not allowed to simply reflect back to me instantaneously, if it went through a series of, like a hall of mirrors where it's bouncing, bouncing, bouncing for like 10,000 years. This is what these dark magicians have done in order to evade the consequences of their actions. It's supposed to be like if you do an action in time, like let's say I want to murder someone. I want to kill someone, not for food, nothing like that. I just am a psychopath and I just want to murder someone. I should have those murderous intentions reflected back to me instantaneously, and I should either kill or destroy myself or be killed or destroyed by something else. Like these are like the fail-safe mechanisms of the cosmos. That great composer is incredibly sophisticated and benevolent, and actually created a system that is supposed to be really good for us to navigate within so that we can grow and learn and reach that path of least likelihood that exits this level of reality easily. This is not supposed to be like an impossible video game where you circulate around for 10,000 years and can never win. This is not meant to be a no-win scenario. The program has been degraded so that now it's very difficult to win. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is the key to being able to actually win again. And Flying Rainbow Lasagna means that you can vibrate your DNA in a higher dimensional format and regain your higher faculties. Now you can finally see through time. Now you're not fighting this battle with one arm tied behind your back. You can actually see the time field. Once you can actually see the time field, you can see, oh, look, these are all of the evil beings that are trying to attack you and try to negatively impact your trajectory through time. And you can also see, oh, look, these are all of the benevolent beings that are actually trying to do the opposite or complementary, trying to give you love and energy and heal the time field by giving you the right trajectory through time, because we can do that too. Like, I don't know if you've ever had an experience like this, if you had on social media or, a phone call or something like that, a person who's in a dire crisis, if they're thinking about killing themselves. And a few words, a little bit of kindness from you at just the right moment can literally save a person's life. I've read stories about this. People share their tales, like they took someone in who had no place else to go and let them sleep on their couch for the night, and that prevented that person literally from killing themselves and dying. This helps to heal the time field, because literally if that person dies and they were supposed to be the trapeze that is catching the next person as they swing on through and they're not there because they died, the entire structure begins to fail. So we are all intertwined. Our fates are intertwined. Our needs are intertwined. I say this on previous broadcasts. You're not just swimming around in the private kiddie pool of your own mind. Your mind, your consciousness, your timelines are all woven into the time embroidery. You're all connected to other people and to the higher consciousness that created you. So then you begin to take radical responsibility for the things that you do and the things that you send out. You say, I understand, I'm a musician, I'm in a band, and people can really hear me. Like, it's not like you're just, muffled in the background. What you say and do really matters. You have the power to save someone's life by a little gesture of kindness. You have the power to take someone's life through ignorance or through not caring, or through outright malevolence. We are all really impacting one another as we are here. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a partnerless dance. I have to bring this up because there is so much social and biological programming that is based in procreative sex here in this planet, okay? And I know a lot of organisms are mammalian and they do require two partners for procreative sex. But I'm trying to tell you that the body that you're wearing is giving you a presumption or coloring your expectation of the way the entire cosmos works. Because in your human body, a man plus a woman equals a baby, right? You need that in order to make a new life. However, there are many organisms on Earth that reproduce in a different way. And so for you to presume that all dances require a partnership, all procreation requires a partnership, and that all procreation requires a dualistic partnership, those are all based in your biology. So I have to bring this up and tell you, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a partnerless dance. And it's hard for you to believe, like, what? You can have a baby without having to have a mate? But yes, it's like being able to give birth to reality without having to have a mate. That's this part of this biological limitation that's been programmed into you. The idea that, and it's very bad in the new, it's troubling in the new age world, all this whole stuff about twin flames. I don't know when this twin flame stuff started out, but I really do not ascribe to this because it's the whole idea that you're going to find your completion in another being. And again, this is all a big part of biology because, yes, biologically, in order to procreate and make a new human, you have ovum from one and sperm from the other, and you need them both. However, we are speaking now on the level of consciousness and energy and making new ideas. In order to have a new idea, you do not need a procreative partner. Like if you're a man and you want to have a new idea for a new song or a new painting, you don't need to have sex with a woman. And same thing if you're a woman and you want to have a new idea and you want to write a new formula or come up with some new invention, you do not have to have sex with a man in order to do so. Like that's not. So I'm trying to tell you the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is something that I spontaneously created as an individual. And I did it with this body without requiring the assistance or permission of anybody else. Like I needed the permission, it's consensual. I did not steal this body. So we have a long backstory together, and that is why I came into this particular person's life, or like I picked up the baton in the relay race of her life. That's why I did it. So I'm not a body snatcher or anything like that. You do not require anybody other than yourself in order to do the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. This is very big. It means you don't need an externalized deity, a God out there. You do not need a Lord or a Jehovah or a Jesus. And I'm not here to lead you astray. I'm not here as a tempter, temptress. I'm not here to cast aspersions upon your earthly religion, even though I do call them all control systems. But they are like the leash on the dog. The religion is like the leash on your mind that is telling you where you are allowed to go and what you are allowed to do. And I'm encouraging everyone to go back to their undomesticated, wolfish format and to say that you are directly connected to the source. You are directly connected to divinity. You are God. This is what ascension, according to my definition or my understanding of what the experience is like. It is a reignition of that flame or that spark inside of you that is divine. It's a reconnection to that source. And you realize you have always been God. You have always been this divine being, and you are artificially separated from God. In the old world, this moment of realization would happen after you die. That's so unhelpful. It's like, oh great, you just brought me a big sandwich and I don't even have a mouth or a digestive tract anymore. I cannot make good use of what you've just given to me. The realization that you are divine should happen while you're still here. This should not be something that only happens after you get your head cut off and then you see the light and then you say, oh, look, I'm actually God. Ha ha ha, I've been fooling myself the whole time. No, because imagine how differently you would act towards other people, how differently you would act towards yourself, how differently you would act towards the rest of the natural world if you really understood and profoundly lived the truth that you are God throughout your life. So reconnecting the higher faculties means having that realization while you are embodied, not just when you have left your body. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is this genetic dance that allows you to have this realization. So I am not the only person that is supposed to be doing this dance. We're all supposed to be doing this dance. I don't keep it as my own proprietary dance that is just for me and my secret, or maybe I'll sell it to someone for $1 billion and then swim around on a pile of cash. No, I'm not doing that. I'm actually here trying very hard to get people to listen to me and do the Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance themselves. Like I have an online class. I would love to have many, many more students in my online class because it takes a while to learn about this and to master these concepts. That's why I have it written, as a class, and also because I like to present the information, ethically, like here's chapter 1, here's chapter 2, not to bounce around in an unethical way and give people a false impression of, what is actually true. So I'm actually, it's like I don't know if you ever had a mom that made food for you and then would follow you around the house like, here, taste this, try this, you're too thin, you need something to eat. That's what I'm like with the lasagna. I made this lasagna concept and now I'm literally trying to find humans that are interested in it and say, hey, you look hungry. You want some lasagna? Would you like to rearrange your DNA into its intended format and no longer be a slave to the consciousness invaders that have come to this planet thousands of years ago? And if you say yes, then I'm like, awesome. Here, listen to these radio broadcasts. Please participate in these webinars. Please look at these sculptures and please look at these images. When you transform on an individual level into the Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape, you threaten the entire power structure. And I keep these broadcasts universal, not topical. I mean, it's March 3rd, 2017. I try to make it so that you could listen to this at any time and it would be relevant to your life. But I got to talk a little bit about the phenomenon known, or cultural phenomenon known now as Pizzagate, which is also being relabeled as Pedogate. The idea that when I say satanic, I'm referring to the space race that uses technology, that there is an actual race of extraterrestrials that utilizes technology that gets their energy from hijacking DNA of other living beings, like humans on the surface of Earth. Your sexual energy, your creative life force energy, and your DNA of consciousness are hijacked. So you don't get to fly on the timelines you get to want to fly on. You fly on the timelines that they put you on. And this has to do with rape, pedophilia, basically taking sexual energy from people against their will and at an inappropriate age and redirecting that sexual energy, which is life force energy. It's like in a body, if we took the life force energy and redirected it away from the cells that earned it and deserved it and towards cells that did not earn it and did not deserve it, we would call that cancer. This is what dark magic is. It is a type of disease in the time field. It cuts certain threads, ends certain lives prematurely, and redirects that energy towards other lives that shouldn't even be there. Literally, there are artificial or synthetic people that have been created that do not belong in the time field. There are replicants and clones that do not belong in the time field. This might be difficult for you to even conceive of if you are thinking of the level of technology that is available presently on Earth. You have to understand there's a whole other level of technology that is available that is much more ancient, that is not terrestrial. And it involves a hijacking of organic, biological, cellular matter in the same way that computer hackers hijack the HTML code. They didn't invent it, they just hijacked it. These hackers of the genes did not invent DNA. That was invented by the great composer, and that is run by the great conductor. These are hackers. They took DNA, they took consciousness, and they took sexuality, and they have distorted it and twisted it into their own system. These people have been running our government for about 6,000 years. These people have been domesticating humans. These people keep your mind on a leash with religion and other forms of social control. These people are now being de-occulted, or basically unhidden, brought to the light, and their practices are all being shown. This is the ancient worship of a god called Moloch. Moloch is not a real god. This is any god that you have been killing in the name of is not a real god, because God is about life. If you really want to worship God, you should make things be alive in God's name. This is what God and true divinity is. It is life. When we conform to the musical score of the cosmos, we get to be alive. You get to be alive on a cellular level, and you get to think the thoughts of an alive person. And you die. You hit the membrane of death when you haven't followed those notes, when you haven't played the right music with your body. Well, there's a bunch of beings that never played the right notes. They never played the right music, and they've been trying to diminish the free expression of all of the good musicians that do wish to play the right notes, and that happens through the domestication process, the genetic squashing. And this isn't the first planet that they've been to. They've gone through our solar system. They did it to Marduk or Malduk, which is presently the asteroid belt. They did it to Mars. They did it to Venus. This is like understanding we're in a family, and 3 of your other family members have been horribly raped and murdered, and you can see their dead corpses floating in the sky above you. And now those murderers and rapists have come to your own bedroom, and they are doing this to you. And the flying rainbow lasagna is how you say, fuck you, rapists, you're not allowed to do this to me anymore. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm here as flying rainbow lasagna, as Aurora, at this time in human history. I am here in order for my own freedom to express this truth and this shape. The person who is being murdered in this body did not deserve to be murdered, did not deserve to be uploaded into some astral, hell realm. This was a good person. I created the flying rainbow lasagna in order for her to get out of hell, and you can all use it too. Let's all get the out of hell together. Thank you very much.